Good afternoon, this is Eric calling with the National Weather Service for July 10th, 2022. A couple options for you. A new 1-800 number gets you into the phone menu system and out on the World Wide Web, weather.gov/Alaska. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at the email listed at the bottom of the page. For the fire weather update from the Alaska Interagency Coordination Center, we got one more day of hot and dry weather across the interior. Significant cooling trend is expected to begin on Tuesday. Copper, Eastern Tanana Valley, Panhandle will continue to get wetting rains, slowing fire behavior. Also, South Central and Southwest will see more showers, though fuel dryness below the surface remains very high to extreme. And the outlook for westerly flow aloft will keep cooler, damper air over Alaska for the second half of the week. This is likely to begin the downturn of the fire season, so good news there. For the Wawa map, or the watch warning advisory map, looking at some red flag warnings across much of the interior, and that's for a thermal trough stretching from McGrath to Fairbanks to Eagle, and that unstable air mass will continue to bring abundant lightning in those zones through Monday, so be cognizant of that. For the satellite image, you can see a low pressing through or pushing through the northern Bering Sea with an occluded front out there. Otherwise, another low in the Gulf of Alaska, spreading some showers and rainfall across the Panhandle. And we do have some showers and thunderstorms through the interior. What's this look like on the service map? You can see that low out there, 1,002 millibars there, pressing through the central Bering Sea with the occluded front, moderate rain associated with that system. Otherwise, some thunder showers again through the interior and into the Brooks Range, some fog along the Arctic coast, and around that ridge of high pressure up there in the Arctic Ocean, 1,013 millibars there. Over another ridge of high pressure over in eastern Russia, 1,018 millibars there. And also, lastly, we do have that low pressure system in the Gulf of Alaska around 998 millibars with an occluded front bringing moderate rain through the Panhandle. For tonight's weather, 1,005 millibar low now analyzed through the central Bering, continues to slowly drift east-southeast with an occluded front, triple point, moderate rain out ahead of that system. Otherwise, that weakening low in the Gulf of Alaska now 1,002 millibars, lingering rain showers through the Panhandle. Not going to be giving up on that smoke and thunderstorm activities through the interior. Some fog along the west coast and north slope. Otherwise, some mixed precipitation across the northwest coast. Ridge of high pressure out there in extreme eastern Russia. For Monday's weather, looking at now 1,007 millibar low, continue to press southeast with an occluded front through the eastern Aleutians, moderate rain through the Bering Sea region and into Bristol Bay. Otherwise, we're going to continue with that smoke, thunder shower, rain shower activity through the interior down through the southwest, also along the Brooks Range. And lastly, that low pressure system in the Gulf of Alaska continues to fill with 1,006 millibars now, lingering rain through the Panhandle. Tuesday, looking at that low, finally makes it into the Gulf of Alaska, 1,001 millibars there just south of Kodiak Island, with an occluded front trough through the interior, bringing continued thunder shower activity and smoke across the interior. Otherwise, the next low pressure system begins to show up there just on the extreme eastern Russia mainland, and then 1,021 millibars ridge of high pressure out there in the western Aleutians, and that low near the Panhandle continues to weaken, 1,009 millibars now by Tuesday. For low temperatures, Monday morning looking at 53 for Ketchikan, looking at 51 in Sitka, 52 in Juneau, 53 in Haines, 53 in Yakutat, 50 in Valdez, 57 in Anchorage, Kenai 51, Homer 54, Kodiak 54, Iliamna 55, and McGrath up there at 56. For high temperatures Monday afternoon, looking at 60 at Ketchikan, 57 in Sitka, 61 in Juneau, 59 in Yakutat, 62 in Valdez, 70 in Anchorage, 63 in Seward, 66 in Homer, 66 in Kodiak, 80 up there in McGrath, and King Salmon coming in with the 69. Low temperatures of Tuesday morning, 50 Ketchikan, 50 in Sitka, 48 in Juneau, 48 in Yakutat, 48 in Valdez, 57 in Anchorage, 52 in Kenai, 54 in Homer, 53 in Kodiak, 54 in McGrath, and 49 in King Salmon. High temperatures Tuesday afternoon, looking at 58 there in Ketchikan, 58 in Sitka, 62 in Juneau, 59 in Haines, 58 in Yakutat, Valdez 61, 65 in Anchorage, 62 in Kenai, 64 in Homer, 60 in Kodiak, 76 in McGrath, 67 in King Salmon. For low temperatures Monday morning, looking at 60 there in Fairbanks, 53 in Eagle, Fort Yukon 59, Anaktuvuk Pass 52, Ukqiavik 36, looking at Point Hope with 39, 52 in Nome, 54 in Galena, 57 in Tanana. For high temperatures Monday afternoon, looking at 70 there in Eagle, 79 there in Fairbanks, 84 in Fort Yukon, Anaktuvuk Pass, 64, 40 in Ukqiavik, Point Hope 42, 62 in Nome, 75 in Galena, 79 in Tanana. For low temperatures Tuesday morning, looking at 51 there in Eagle, 56 in Fairbanks, 56 in Fort Yukon, 37 in Anaktuvuk Pass, 32 in Ukqiavik, Point Hope 39, Nome 46, 50 in Galena, Tanana 51. High temperatures Tuesday afternoon, looking at 69 in Eagle, 75 in Fairbanks, 74 in Fort Yukon, Anaktuvuk Pass 50, Arctic Village 59, 39 in Ukqiavik, 47 in Point Hope, 50 in Nome, 70 in Galena, 72 in Tanana. For low temperatures Monday morning for the southwest, looking at 55 in Aniak, 55 in Bethel, 56 in Dillingham, 47 in Cold Bay, 48 in Dutch Harbor, 45 in Shemya, St. Paul 45. For high temperatures Monday afternoon, 75 in both Aniak and Bethel, 74 in Dillingham, 58 in Cold Bay, 57 in Dutch Harbor, 50 in Shemya, 52 in St. Paul. For low temperatures Tuesday morning, 56 there in Bethel, 54 in Aniak, 53 in Dillingham, Cold Bay 48, 47 in Dutch Harbor, Shemya 46, 44 in St. Paul. High temperatures Tuesday morning, 76 in Bethel, 72 in Aniak, 67 in Dillingham, 55 in Cold Bay, 54 in Dutch Harbor, 49 in Shemya, St. Paul 53. For the CPC 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for July 16th through July 20th, looking at favored tilts for cooler temperatures across much of the mainland. Maybe a welcome sign there, and that stretches down into the Panhandle with slight tilts for cooler temperatures down there in the Panhandle, but otherwise near normal conditions across much of the Kenai Peninsula into the Alaska Peninsula and out through the Aleutians. For the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook for July 16th through July 20th, looking at above normal tilts for precipitation for areas across much of the mainland, but zeroed in there across much of the western interior down into the southwest, and this tilts for above normal precipitation extends down the Alaska Peninsula and down through the Panhandle as well, and even into the Kenai Peninsula, but looking at some cooler and much needed precipitation for the middle of July. So we're going to be seeing some systems pressing through the mainland of Alaska from the northwest. Much needed sign.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the aviation forecast, starting with flying weather Monday morning, dealing with some continued smoke and areas of thunderstorms across the interior. And also a low pressure system in the Gulf of Alaska, bringing some areas of IFR conditions there, and also some IFR conditions out there in the Bering Sea and down through the Aleutians, otherwise some marginal conditions throughout much of the Bering, and some IFR conditions along the Arctic coast and northwest coast as well, but otherwise dealing with a low pressure system in the Gulf and thunderstorms across much of the eastern interior and in along the Brooks Range for the next couple of days. So Monday afternoon, continued thunderstorm activity development there, and then otherwise IFR conditions along the Arctic coast, IFR conditions out there in the eastern Bering, marginal conditions spread out throughout much of the Bering, and again that low pressure system creating some marginal conditions along the Gulf region into the Panhandle. And then looking at Tuesday morning, smoke continues to linger, areas of thunderstorms from overnight activity there for Tuesday morning. Otherwise, IFR conditions along the North Slope, marginal conditions throughout much of the Bering, IFR conditions in portions of the Gulf and along the Alaska Peninsula into the Bristol Bray region. For Tuesday afternoon, again, looking at some thunderstorm development in the afternoon. Otherwise, IFR conditions along the North Slope and eastern Brooks Range, otherwise IFR conditions through much of the Alaska Peninsula, marginal conditions through the Gulf and over into the Bering Sea. For past conditions on Monday, AKwx, VFR conditions, but look for thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon, and smoke. For Adigan, same kind of conditions there. Lake Clark and Merrill, look for VFR conditions, very nice flying weather, and that continues up into the rainy. And windy conditions, windy pass, looking for VFR conditions with smoke and afternoon thunderstorms as you pop into the north entrance. And Isabel, same kind of scenario there. And then down into Mentasta Pass, looking at, again, smoke and afternoon thunderstorms across the interior there. Otherwise, VFR conditions. Tanita, a little bit degraded flying weather there with marginal conditions there with that low pressure system in the Gulf. And same kind of thing for Portage, VFR conditions as you pop into the Cook Inlet region, otherwise IFR conditions out there in Prince William Sound. As you pop in through the pass though, marginal conditions. For Chilkoot and White, just marginal conditions down there in the Panhandle. For freezing levels, Monday morning, looking at 10,000 foot freezing level through much of the mainland and over into Canada, otherwise 8,000 to 6,000 feet over the Panhandle there and over in the Aleutians and into the Bering Sea, anywhere between 14,000 and 10,000 feet of freezing level there. Looking at icing conditions on Monday, around thunderstorms you can expect some icy conditions, but otherwise looking at thunderstorm activity develop across the Brooks Range, eastern interior, Copper River Basin, and there's a small area down there in the Kuskokwim Delta. Otherwise, isolated moderate to considerable moderate in some areas there associated with a low pressure system in the Panhandle and into Canada, and that's above 10,000 feet. For jet stream on Monday, looking at low pressure system just in the eastern Bering, 105 knots there cutting across the eastern Aleutians. Otherwise that low pressure system near the Panhandle looking at anywhere between 95 and 110 knots as you get into Canada. Otherwise northerly flow on the north side of that low up to 65 knots there. Otherwise light and variable across much of the mainland. Otherwise some westerlies coming into the northwest coast up to about 35 knots there. For 9,000 foot winds, looking at that low pressure system in the Bering Sea, strong northerly winds across the Aleutians, light and variable across the mainland, and southerly winds into the Panhandle. And for 3,000 foot winds, vertically stacked low there in the eastern Bering. Looking at northerly winds cutting across the Aleutians, light and variable for the most part across the mainland, another low pressure system there in the Gulf, bringing some southerly winds in the Panhandle. Turbulence on Monday, looking at surface to 6,000 feet across the Panhandle, again for Monday.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining us here today is Eric Stevens from the Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, GINA for short. And Eric, you frequently come on the show to tell us about these really cool things that we're doing with satellites over Alaska and how we can use these really awesome tools. But I'm thinking all the while there has to be a mad scientist somewhere working on the next cool thing in the satellite laboratory. What is being developed today?
Right. Well, you know, when I was a kid growing up in the boonies in North Dakota there, on Sunday after church, the old people, like my parents and their parents, would gather and have coffee and talk. And I kind of eavesdropped on them a little bit. And the theme of a lot of these conversations seemed to be, well, isn't it amazing what they can do these days, someone would say.
Sure.
And I was thinking, well, I don't know, I was too young.
Right.
Well, now I'm old enough in the weather satellite business.
You can remember when.
The new generation of weather satellites, I'm starting to say, isn't it amazing what they can do these days? Because it's always improving.
Yes.
Maybe an analogy here is like television. Television started in black and white, then it went to color. Analog signal transitioned to digital here a number of years ago. Standard definition becomes high definition. Right. Well, weather satellites are changing too. First weather satellites went up around 1960, not that long ago. No. It's comparatively young science. And every time a new series of satellite is launched, we learn from the past, so the mad scientists decide, well, we could make the next satellite even better in such and such a respect. Yes. And now the United States is on the verge of launching, or in progress of launching, a series of new geostationary satellites that are better than ever before. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the previews of what these new satellites can do.
Peek inside the lab here, okay.
Yeah, and so we'll peek in, and here are some mad scientists and mad technicians dressed in bunny suits. This is, believe it or not, this is the business end of a weather satellite under construction in a clean room. You don't want a speck of dust on the lens of a weather satellite's camera. So this is done in a clean environment. They are building a geostationary satellite there.
Oh, cool.
This new generation of satellites, if you had to answer the question, why are these better? Why do we care? Okay. You could answer it with 3 words: faster, better, more. The new generation of satellites are faster than the older ones. The images are sharper, they're better, and there's more spectral channels. We'll talk about that.
Any one of these called Steve Austin? It sounds faster, better, stronger.
Yeah. You know what, though? These things cost more than $6 million.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're pricey. But they are an essential tool for the Weather Service to fulfill its mission of protecting lives and property.
Exactly.
You got to have the tool to do the job. And it helps all of us when we get the accurate forecast, the warning in time, and this is the tool. Faster. On left here, we see what the old generation of satellites could scan in 5 minutes. On the right, that's what you get in 5 minutes, the whole planet, or at least one side of it. So it's faster. That means you can take more images over a given amount of time and make smoother movie loops out of that. Because animating movie loops really helps you highlight a feature that maybe you can't see as well in a single image.
Absolutely does, yep.
Let's zoom into a small piece of real estate like Texas.
Sure.
And we can see here a satellite that has a 1-minute movie loop visible light. You can see thunderstorms boiling there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the rippling of the top of the thunderstorm. This is a fun movie loop. We're going to be able to see things like this more and more often because of the new satellites being generated. Some things are only evident in animation. So that's faster. Well, what's better? We're able to now have sharper imagery than before. The Japanese have a satellite that uses the same imager that is on the new generation of satellites that America is launching too. An imager, that's just a word for camera. It's the camera on a weather satellite. We have something called the Advanced Baseline Imager.
Sounds important.
ABI. It's important enough, it has an acronym. Everything's an acronym. Well, an ABI-like instrument is here over the Western Pacific, and we can see this color image. This is what a human eye might see if you were riding on the satellite. But it's a little bit fuzzy. With new technology, you can post-process the image taken by the satellite to highlight and sharpen some of the features. So this image here of the Western Pacific then becomes this image. Thanks to the processing techniques, This is the newest technology. So we've got a new satellite that can provide better data than ever before. And on the ground, we can process it better than before as well to really sharpen up the imagery and to give us a better view of the weather than ever before. So faster and better and more. What do we mean by more? Well, on the older generation of satellites, the imager, the camera, had 5 slices of the spectral pie, visible imagery, infrared imagery, something we can't see from the human eye. A lot of different slices of the pie. We're going from 5. The new imager has 16 slices. Each slice has its own relevance. Some are best for volcanic ash, for smoke, for dust, for telling the difference between smoke and dust, which can look similar under some infrared channels, but other ones bring out certain things. All of these 16 bands are important. In fact, some of the mad scientists, they didn't want 16, they wanted 24. There's always more you can do. But that'll be the next generation of satellites. So now we say, isn't it amazing what we can do these days? And you know what? It makes you think, well, what's the future going to be like too? It's so important to be able to know what's going on now in the weather. If you're going to forecast the future, you got to know where things are now. And satellites are the way to see that, especially in Alaska, where we don't have as many observations down on the ground. The satellites fill in the holes.
Yeah, really important stuff. And I love hearing about what we can see right now, but I love thinking about what is possible in the future. It's amazing stuff. And since you paid for it, it's a good time to learn about it. If you'd like, check out the website at www.goes-r.gov. And as I understand, it's a really easy website to use.
Oh yeah, a lot of good information about what these new satellites mean to Americans. And it's the Weather Service's mission to protect lives and property, and this is the tool how to do it.
Cool stuff, Eric. Thanks so much for sharing that with us today, and thank you for joining us right here in Alaska Weather Facts. We'll see you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Looking at the marine forecast, starting with the ice edge, lower concentrations of ice can be seen in the Chukchi Sea area at the southern end of that ice pack. Also, some lower concentrations of ice over there just off the Beaufort Sea coast. For Monday's marine forecast for southeast, inside waters generally from a southerly direction up to 20 with seas as high as 8 feet. On the outside waters, winds generally from a southerly direction up to 25 knots with seas as high as 13, so look for small craft advisory there on Monday. For Tuesday, looking at winds in the inside passage from the south at 10 with seas as high as 4 feet. And for the Gulf region, winds from a generally easterly direction up to 20 with seas as high as 7 feet. For south central on Monday, for the Gulf region, winds generally from a variable direction 15 to 25 with seas as high as 8 feet. And for Prince William Sound, winds generally from the southeast of 15 to seas as high as 3 feet. And up through the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 25 with seas as high as 5 feet. So look for some small craft advisories in the Kamishak Bay region on Monday. For Tuesday, looking at winds generally from a variable direction across the Gulf region 10 to 15 with seas as high as 4 feet. Also in Prince William Sound, winds generally from a variable direction 10 with seas as high as 2 feet. In the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a southerly direction up to 15 with seas as high as 4 feet. For Monday's marine forecast for Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, winds generally from a westerly direction around Kodiak Island up to 30 with seas as high as 8 feet, so small craft advisory is likely there on Monday. And for the south side of Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a southwesterly direction at 20 with seas as high as 5 feet. On the north side of Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a variable direction 20 to 25 with seas as high as 5 feet. And for Tuesday, around Kodiak Island, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 20 with seas as high as 6 feet. And south side of Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from the west to 15 with seas as high as 6 feet. For the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a variable direction at 10 to 15 with seas as high as 3 feet. For the Luzerne Chain on Monday, winds generally from a westerly direction 15 to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet on the eastern end of that. And for Tuesday, winds generally from a westerly direction 10 to 15, or 10 to 20 actually, with seas as high as 5 feet. For Monday's marine forecast for West Coast, looking at winds generally from a variable direction 15 to 20 with seas as high as 7 feet there near St. Matthew Island, and winds generally from a southerly direction around the Pribilofs up to 6 feet with winds up to 15. And for Tuesday, looking at winds generally from a northern direction 10 to 25 with seas as high as 5 feet around St. Matthew Island. And for the Arctic coast, looking at winds along the Beaufort Sea coast to be from the west at 10 to 15, and generally down through the Chukchi Sea coast, winds generally from a northerly direction up to 15 with seas as high as 4 feet, and down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from the north at 15 with seas as high as 5 feet. And for Tuesday, along the Beaufort Sea coast, winds generally from the north at 10 to 15. Chukchi Sea coast, winds generally from a variable direction up to 10. Seas as high as 2 feet there. And down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from the north at 10 to 15 with seas as high as 4 feet. For the marine forecast, weather-wise on the surface map, looking at 1,007 millibar low to continue its eastward progression through the Bering Sea, with the included front there, some mixed precipitation associated with rain to light rain across much of the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians. Otherwise, smoky and some thunderstorm activity through the interior with that thermal trough. And we also will see some thunderstorm activity across the Brooks Range. Otherwise, weakening low in the Gulf of Alaska, 1,006 millibars there with rain associated with that system. And for Tuesday, that system from the Bering makes it into the Gulf of Alaska, just south of Kodiak Island, 1,001 millibars there. Weakening low just off the coast of southeast Alaska, 1,009 millibars there. Continued rain, otherwise thunderstorms through the interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.